Hiya folks, as some of you already know, last night I made the announcement on Facebook of the opening date for GNAR Bike Park of the 18th and 19th of June that weekend. So it was a massive relief to finally be able to get the opening date out there, and subsequently I spent pretty much all of last night answering questions and PMs. Now I don't mind doing that at all, it's great, it's quite interesting, quite good fun. But what it did make me realise is that although I thought I'd been making vlogs for the past sort of 15 months and everything, and I thought I'd been putting all the information out there, that doesn't actually work unless you've seen them all. If your kind of thing is, well, what's going on with this place? Oh, I'll ask a mate, and that mate hasn't seen them all either, and you're both left with, well, what's going on with this place? So the idea is to make a bit of a condensed version to bring people up to speed of the story so far. I suppose the best place to start with is, who am I and what am I doing? My name is Ben Eggleston and I'm the founder and CEO of GNAR Bike Park. I'm a 40-year-old guy who got into mountain biking back in 1986. Last year I quit my job and decided to open a mountain bike training facility. Next question that follows on from there is, what the hell is a mountain bike training facility? So in order to explain what a mountain bike training facility is, it's probably best to start with why it exists. Now, why seems like it's the most complicated question, but to me it really isn't. It's simple. We all started from the same place of not even being able to ride a bike. We get our skills better and better to now to the point where we're riding our bikes off-road and over lumps and bumps, and we progress those skills further and further, get better and better, and enjoy it more and more. It's the kind of glue that binds us all together. We're all after the same thing. So let's start from the beginning. Flashback to 1983. 7-year-old me is just consumed by BMX. It was the summer holidays at the time, and right at the start of the summer holidays, a guy called Andy Ruffle came on TV, and he basically said, if you want to learn how to bunny hop, you need to start jumping over a Coke can and progress and get bigger and bigger. And then he said, because progression is the key. Now, I spent the summer holidays crushing a lot of Coke cans with my back wheel, but eventually by the end of the 6 weeks I was getting the other kids in the village to lay down and bunny hopping over them. So the words of progression is the key have really struck home and just basically become gospel for me. Now that was BMX, but it also applies to mountain biking. Fast forward 1983, 30 years to 2013, and I'm still totally down with Andy Ruffle's advice of small stages of incremental progression. They're the key to learning how to ride your bike. Now the issue that I'd got and the problem I was facing was my progression had stopped. It had reached some sort of like plateau, some invisible glass ceiling, whatever you want to call it, but it stopped and I was stagnating, and that was frustrating. Now admittedly it took a long time to figure out what was wrong, but here's what I came up with. One way of collating multiple pieces of information from multiple different sources is to start looking at the averages. Now I'm lucky enough to live in a place where there's 8 times different riding spots all within an hour and a half's drive of me, which is perfect. So I should be getting tons of practice. Well, in fact, I was kind of getting out maybe once a week. Maybe get out on a Sunday. You know, a lot of us are family people out there, and that's probably about as much as we can get out. Still, not bad though. So how far was I riding in that one day? Well, it was probably riding about 28 kilometres on average in 7 hours. Like by the time you're getting your bikes ready out of the car and lunch breaks and what have you, about 7 hours, 28 kilometres. What kind of surface was it, the average surface? Well, it's hard packed crushed limestone. In fact, to be fair, that's what's on all of them. And what kind of features was I being challenged with while I was there? Well, on average, it's tabletops, and they're kind of between knee and waist high. So the next thing to do was how long am I spending practicing doing those tabletops or doing those types of features? Well, if you think about it, you hit one, 1 and 2 and 3, and you're back down again. So you average of about 3 seconds, and there's around, this varies a bit, but there's around 14 of them on averaging on across the 8 different tracks. So I'd got that info and started to look at it a bit further. Now, don't get me wrong, riding kilometre and kilometre of gravel path every week is great for cardio, it's good for fitness, and let's be honest, a lot of those rides are really scenic and a nice ride out. But it just wasn't, I didn't feel that I needed to practice riding on gravel paths. That wasn't what I needed. I needed to practice being challenged, having my balance challenged and bike handling skills. So, the issue that I was presented with was that on a 28-kilometre ride that lasted 7 hours, I was riding 14 features, about 3 seconds each. I was doing this once a week. So therefore, I was riding over features and practicing for 42 seconds a week, which is 2.8 minutes a month and 34 minutes a year. Now, if you're only actually practicing, you're doing it once a week, but only actually challenging yourself and practicing for 34 minutes a year, is it any bloody wonder that I wasn't getting any better? All this led to the conclusion that I really don't want to be riding fire roads anymore. I don't really want to be riding gravel paths. I need to maximise my time on the bike. I want somewhere with loam and roots, and somewhere with multiple features of multiple different sizes that I can hit again and again and again in the space of a day, that are going to challenge me and progress my riding forwards. So after about 3 months of general hissy fitting that the place that I wanted to ride didn't actually exist, and then a period of crossing my fingers and hoping that somebody else would do it for me, I quickly began to realise that if this is going to happen, I'm going to have to do it myself. In order to do this myself, I thought that a bit of input and support might be really helpful. The first places that I looked were the EU, central government and local governments. But in fairness to them, they have been shouting about and saying that they support new ventures and want to support British business. And you know, if we are going to be fair to them, it makes much more sense to just actually say that whilst you're lobbying for votes than going ahead and actually putting your hand in your pocket and giving out the money. It's far easier just to say it. So of course, as you would imagine, there is no actual grants there. It's not a real thing, believe me, I've applied for them. So it's all a bit lip service. The next person or group of people that I turned to was the mountain bike industry, because hey, surely this is something that the mountain bike industry can get behind. So once I had those two doors of opportunity firmly closed in my face, I realised I was going to have to man up and do this myself. Now, I'm sure you've had times where you've approached your other half and said, I'm thinking about taking some of the savings and spending 3k on a new bike. Now imagine going to your other half and saying, you know, all of our life savings, I'm thinking about spending it on a bike park. Yay! So that's the why. Let's get into what the park's actually about. So, forgive my slightly rudimentary map, but it'll do to serve the purpose of explaining where we are right now. So we've got 46 acres of woodland, and we've got that through until 2035. There's a main access road from the bottom that goes round in a one-way loop and goes right the way around through the car park and back down and out again. Up in here right now, that's where we are now, up in the cabin. And we've got space for, currently got space for about 60 cars. There is plans on these dotted lines to expand the car park to put more space in. Over here we've got the access track up to the top of all the trails, with the push-up track going up in here in white. And in green are our current tracks that we've got. There's 5 of them. The dotted one being Beggars Canyon, which is on its way in. So over here we've got Magic Bus. There's no actual features on here, we're just getting used to heading down through unsurfaced paths and tracks, getting yourself down over negotiating routes and round tight corners. Then we move on to elementary. Here we've got rollable whoops that you can double if you want to. Coming into more difficult line choices over single logs down here at the bottom. Over here we've got get to the chopper. from the introduction of drops to small gaps and kickers. And then here's Gasoline Alley. Things that get a little bit faster to steeper, narrower and a bit more twisty. And our fifth track's currently named GDH1, but one of the Wall of Famers is going to give it its official name. There's 12-foot log-to-log gaps. Down the bottom here we've got a big old kicker to a hip landing, because there's a small version of that exact same feature over here on Elementary. The next logical question will be, what's going on over here? Well, I've built now in the most awkward section of the park. Over here the tree spacing's a lot better. It allows for much longer, steeper tracks, and because the tree spacing's so good, they're quicker to build and I can put bigger features in. From small rollable whoops on Elementary, you can go from clearing a single bike length gap to clearing 15 feet into a gap landing. Imagine what I've got planned for you over the next 5 tracks. So fast forward a few years and this is what the bike park looks like once phase 1's complete. So we've filled up the rest of this area with tracks. This has now been changed from an access path to the uplift road that'll have a loop to drop off, and then you follow the path back down, splitting off to the right and come back down again. All of the tracks will be in. By that time Beggar's Canyon's obviously in, and we're pretty much full, but not yet. So what I often call phase 1 is probably better thought of as layer 1, because in the pinky red lines coming over the top, this is going to be layer 2 that comes down over it. These are going to intersect over the top of the original tracks by wooden bridges and some road gap style jumps as well, just to get you across. The wooden bridges will be built in the style of tabletop, so they'll be quite big. The tracks in pink will be pretty much straight up jump lines. They're designed to be fast and flow really quickly, and a couple of these, like the real big one at the end, may possibly be surfaced just to keep that real speed so that you can hit all the big jumps on it. Obviously by this time we'll expand the car park, there'll be things like the pub tracking, and we just get to keep moving forwards from there. So I've said this a few times before, I've said see you soon, but now we've got a date for the 18th and 19th of June, and I really will see you soon. I hope this has been a bit helpful. Like I said, fire any questions at me that you have. I don't mind answering them at all. It's part of my job, that's why I'm here. Thanks very much for your time, guys. I'll see you soon.